Welcome to the world of the spirit consciousness. This is a continuation of the book study session on thought forms. The lessons in this module are drawn from chapter 7 of the Astral Body and Other Phenomena, which has been authored by AE Poell, and the images are drawn from the book Thought Forms, which has been authored by Annie Besant and Leadbeater. So far, we have discussed a brief introduction, what radiating vibrations are, which we also discussed as thought vibrations, the working and principles of the creation of thought forms, and now we shall discuss the shape of various thought forms. So this module has been structured in this fashion. So there'll be a quick disclaimer before we start looking and understanding various shapes of thought forms. We will see the shapes of unclear thoughts and unclear feelings. We'll be looking at shapes of specific thoughts and feelings. We will consider the thought forms of people with controlled mind and emotions. We'll be considering the thought forms of sound, which will cover musical sounds and other sounds. Then we shall look at shapes of some other thought forms which we have not been able to classify in the above sections. Then there are mechanical drawings possible of thought forms on paper as per these books. So we'll be briefly discussing that as well. And then we'll be quickly touching upon the reference book on thought forms, which we had discussed about in the introductory video as well. So before we begin, before continuing, it's important to remember that all these representations of thought forms are actually images which are four-dimensional in nature, and people studying the four dimensions may know that only a section of the four dimensions can be represented. Hence, it is impossible to understand them from our two-dimensional and three-dimensional perspectives. So with this understanding, let's see the shape of thought forms. So let's see what unclear thoughts and feelings look like. So we will consider three types over here: the vague pure affection, the vague selfish affection, and vague religious feeling. So this is how a vague pure affection looks like. As you can see, the colors are pure pink, but the shape is not very clear. So when I speak about the color, the contrast is visible when I compare it with the next slide, which is a vague selfish affection. So the outline remains as cloudy as the previous time, but here we see we are having some patches of dark color, which goes on to show that there are negative elements to this affection. So this is how a vague religious feeling would look like. So it's blue, it's pure, it's beautiful, but again the shape is not very well defined because the thought or the emotion over here remains to be vague. So let's look at the specific thoughts and feelings which form clear forms. So an absolutely affectionate feeling towards someone has a bird-like shape having a yellow center and two rose pink colored wings. The thought of universal love looks like a rose pink sun emitting rays in all directions. So this we have an image that supports this particular uh, thought. Then selfish or greedy thought forms hooks, sometimes literal, digging into the desperate wish. So we have a supporting image over here as well. Continuous and explicit prayers form a shape close to that of a flower. Pursuing devotion forms a blue cone with the tip facing up. So we have an image to support this blue cone as well. A devotional aspiration will resemble a blue cone that we've discussed over here. So this is what universal love looks like. So you can see it's a radiant pink sun with rays going in all directions over here like this. So this is what devotional aspiration is. So it forms it's a blue cone. It's a blue cone over here, tapering to the top, which means the energy is rushing up. So and it's a very clear, precise shape as compared to what we had seen earlier, which is a vague cloud of a similar color. So selfish or greedy thoughts, we have images on selfish ambition, selfish greed, and greed for drink. So this is what a selfish ambition would look like. This is what selfish greed would look like. And this is what greed for drinks look like. So deep curiosity forms a yellow snake. A burst of anger forms red and orange color splash. Prolonged anger looks like a sharp dagger with a long blade and needle-like point or a stiletto. And bitter jealousy forms a brown colored snake. So we will see images for most of them. So this is the deep curiosity image. This is the burst of anger, which is a splash of red and orange. So this image is the sustained anger, and this image is that of the murderous rage. So now let's look at the thought forms of people with controlled mind and emotions. They are very beautiful to look at. So they are beautiful, symmetrical, and well-defined shapes. And these shapes include triangles, intertwining triangles, five-pointed stars, hexagons, crosses. So these geometrical shapes, thought forms, I'm sorry, are related to cosmic order or metaphysical concepts. So this is the thought form of sympathy and love for all. This is the thought form which is an aspiration to enfold everyone. This is a thought form which goes in six directions. This is an intellectual conception of the cosmic order. This is the logos as manifested in man. So even I am not terribly sure as to what is implied by this. And these are some other geometric shapes that are typically seen by people in meditation. So so description of each of these thought forms or images are given in the book called The Thought Forms by Annie Besant and Leadbeater. So a student may refer to that as well. So coming to thought forms of sound. So let's first consider the musical sounds. So musical forms are shapes based on thoughts of the composer and the skill demonstrated by a musician through the musical instrument. The music forms differ according to the type of music, the instrument playing the music, the skill of the musician performing music. For example, if played correctly, the same music form will appear larger when played by an orchestra as compared to a piano. The texture of the music form will be different on a violin and on a flute, although the tune is the same. The music's form is more beautiful and glowing when played correctly by a true artist versus by an inexperienced, dull musician. Music forms may last for minimum 1 to 2 hours, radiating their defining vibrations in all directions like how thought forms do. So different composers produce different thought forms. The book Thought Forms gives the following three examples in color. The Wagner's Overture, which is an enormous whole like mountains of flame instead of stone. The Bach's Fugues, which are bold, rugged but symmetrical. with a stream of gold and silver, or ruby passing to the form, a repeated appearance of the motif. And Mendelssohn's Labor on What, which is a delicate structure of silver lace castles. So the book has shown images this and this. This image is not part of the book and hence does not form part of this video. So this is what Wagner's overture has been depicted as, and this is how Mendelssohn's Labor on What's music thought form has been depicted as. So some more descriptions. General music, so scales and arpeggios are expressed like lasso like loops and curves. Chorus songs are a silver thread of melody in which several beads are strung. The glee or part songs are depicted as colorful threads varying in color and texture. Processional hymns are definite rectangular shapes like a chain of train carriages. Angelical sounds are shining particles different from the shining consistency of Gregorian tones, and it is said to be similar to the Sanskrit verses chanted by Indian Pandits. Military music is a flow of regular vibrating shapes, these waves strengthening the soldiers' astral bodies with the help of the powerful and continuous oscillations. These provide a temporary supply of willpower to the soldiers whose bodies may have weakened due to extreme tiredness. So the music forms of the performer and the composer usually differ from each other. Thought forms of the composer often go on for centuries due to appreciation of his huge fan base for the original creation. At times, crowds of nature spirits can be seen enjoying the music and indulging in their influence. So we've now coming to other sounds. So thought forms of sounds non-musical. So here we are covering the sounds of nature, the bird and animal sounds, human sounds, the one sound of nature, man-made sounds. So coming to the sounds of nature, so a thunderstorm is a violent streak of colors. A crash creates a form similar to an exploding bomb or an uneven spherical shape with spikes protruding from it. Sea waves crashing the shore are said to be like parallel color changing lines which become as huge as mountains during storm. Wind passing over leaves in a forest, so they are said to be like glowing meshes encasing the leaves which ebb and flow like subtle waves. Bird and animal sounds. The colors of these projections depends on the animal's feelings and the key of its voice. It is generally red or brown. The sounds of birds per se, so they are in curving lines and illuminated loops, ranging from golden globes of the Camperino to the misshapen and coarse-colored scream of parrots or macaws. Doves are supposed to have beautiful curves like inverted S shapes. Animals, a lion's roar is visible in matter of higher planes, and animals with clairvoyant power can see it, hence adding to the fear. A cat's purr is concentric circles of rose-colored haze. A dog's bark shoots clear, sharp, pointed projections like fired rifle bullets, which seriously impact people's astral bodies. A bloodhound's bay are like football-sized beads, but they are not harmful to the astral bodies. A cow's lowing are uncoordinated and blunt shapes like logs of wood. Flock of sheep will have an unstructured shape of cloud which has many points to it. Now let's come to human sounds. So anger throws a scarlet spear, meaningless chatter that forms a sort of barrier with fine hard mesh of brown colored grey metallic lines, preventing good and higher thoughts or feelings from entering. So a talkative person's astral body is a prominent object lesson on the mistake of unimportant and foul speech. A child's laughter has been said to be like rosy curves, and laughter of an empty-minded person, so it has an eruptive impact in a shapeless mass of brown or dirty green in color. Sneering is a misshapen dull red projection with brownish green spots and sharp points. The laughter of the insensitive and selfish person is like that of pool of boiling mud. Nervous gurgles are brown and dull yellow lines entwined like seaweeds and which are severely harmful to the astral body. Cheerful laughter is green and gold round shapes. Soft melodious whistles are more distinct and metallic than a flute, while a tuneless whistle throws off dirty brown projections. So the book also speaks of the one sound of nature. So it's also called the kung or the great tone is the Chinese term for the one tone formed as a merging of all sounds of nature. This tone has its own form, which is a merging of all the forms. This form is as massive and ever-changing as the sea and represents the sound of our earth in the music of spheres. According to some writers, it is the F note of our scale. Now coming to man-made sounds, the screeching of a railway engine. So it sends strong and sharp projections on the astral body like a sword shoved into the physical body. The impact on the astral organism takes a lot of time to subdue, although the wounds heal in a few minutes. Rifle or pistol fire, it releases a stream of small needles, has severe impact on astral currents and astral bodies. So we've discussed the initial disclaimer, the unclear thoughts, specific thoughts, thought forms of people with controlled mind and emotions, thought forms of sound. Now we will be considering the shapes of other thought forms. So fussing or fidgeting, so shaky vibrations are sent into the aura, altering any thought or feeling and neutralizing it, even if they are good. So precise thoughts, though essential, should be achieved only by proper calmness and not through fuss. So mechanical drawings of thought forms on paper. So it must be noted that some thought forms are too intricate and confusing to be drawn by humans. However, mechanical instruments can draw a close resemblance to them. The harmonograph is one such instrument. It is made up of a tiny point controlled by many pendulums in its functioning. Each pendulum has its own separate swing, and all of these are connected to a single combined movement. This some single combined movement is transmitted to the pointer, which is recorded by it on a provided surface. Then there is another instrument, the sand patterns formed by the renowned Chladni's sound plate or the Edophone by Margaret Watts. These are some of the other forms. So this is what the Chladni's sound plate has been looks like, and these are some of the forms produced in sound from that. So reference book on thought forms. So this is a very interesting topic, and there's a lot more content that a reader might wish to look at. So this entire chapter and the module is chiefly a summarized version of the fundamentals explained in the book called Thought Forms by Annie Besant and Lead Beta. So it has several more colorful pictures of several types of thought and emotion forms. So strongly recommended to read the classical work to gain deeper insights. Thank you. So the next part of this video session is on the types of thought forms. Stay tuned.